Little disclaimer before we start the review. I am in no way affiliated with Alienation, nor am I sponsored by them at this point. I generally ride tubeless tires because of the comfort and the massive amount of surgeries that I've undergone, and 3 failed back surgeries. So the tubeless tires generally give me a little bit more comfort while riding because the sidewall is supple, so it flexes just a little bit more than a tubed tire, even at low pressures. Enables me to ride the bike just a little bit more. I can't ride every day, but when I do ride, I ride as hard as I can. And, everybody that rides bikes knows that riding your bike is great for your mental health and great for your mental stability. So here's the original excerpts from the website of the R2 original and the R2 Blue label. Hello YouTube, we're here to give a review / first impressions of the Alienation R2 tubeless compatible system tires, which is a tubeless tire that you normally use tape inside your rim with sealant, as long as it was a sealable rim, which all rims can be sealed to a certain extent depending on the rim, as long as they have a hook bead or if they were specifically designed to take tubeless tires. So there's about 5 companies that make tubeless tires. One of them is Alienation. Another one is IRC. I believe another one is Kenda, but Kenda makes the more. I think they'll only make the 2.2s, and then Radio makes the oxygen, and that in the tubeless tire. The IRC is what Athena Cherry Bomb runs. She runs IRC 20 by 1.75s, and that would be the Siren Pro Rise, which was the new tire that got released at the end of last year. Unfortunately, Alienation is the only company currently that makes a 24 by 175 tubeless or tubeless compatible race tire. So what I'm going to talk about today is the biggest difference between this Blue label tire, which is set to be released very soon to be for open purchase, and this older original 24 by 175 R2 tire. And I actually have experience on a lot of Alienation's tubeless tire setups. I had one on a class bike with the F1 on the front, which is their 20 by 1.95, and then I had a R2 on the rear, which is their 20 by 175. The first thing I would even talk about these is that the carcass is so much thinner here than even in the center in some spots than the original R2. The R2 here has a very thick carcass right here, and then it has kind of the beads are about the same size, but what I've noticed is that this bead feels a little bit more flexible, and this bead feels a little bit, well, maybe not more flexible, but feels more stiff. Like there might be a Kevlar bead inside there or a band inside there or something. I'm not sure exactly what they have because they didn't mention it on the website. But I think the original design of these tires is to basically make the tire be able to handle that it's 45 to 85 psi on race tires. So I do understand that some people like running 90, 100 psi in their tires, but I don't really like doing that. Like my body's too beat up and old to really have to absorb that many hits on the track just all the vibration bumps. So tubeless tires actually take away some of that vibration. Mainly just because the sidewall is usually a little bit more supple because you don't have a tube pushing against it. But that's another topic for a different video. So if we look at the tread pattern is exactly the same. I mean, they have a harder compound in the center and a softer compound on the outside to hold turns. I will say one thing about when I had the F1 on my class bike, on dirt or asphalt, in the rain or pump track or any other variable conditions, I never slid out my front tire. Now, I was usually running about 75 PSI in the front, and I'm about 220 pounds with all my gear on. So it's not like I haven't pushed those tires to the limit. Now, I have had a slightly different experience on 24s. So on the Cruiser, I did have a tire blow. But the problem, it didn't blow on the track. It blew while I was about to do sprints. And part of the reason is my fault. I ended up pumping up the tire the day before when it was like 60 degrees outside to about 80 PSI. And then the next day it was 75 and I left the bike in the sun. Not a smart move on my end. And I'm guessing that the PSI probably went up to about 100 and then blew the bead and then blew off the rim. I've never experienced that in the 20-inch version of any of those tires. I had a delamination problem with the oxygen tires one time, but any other tubeless tire that I've ran, I haven't had that same issue. In really hot conditions, I had like one little problem, and it was the actual sealant. The sealant, I was using Muck Off. And what I find with Muck Off, when it's like over 110 degrees outside and your bike's sitting in the sun, it seems like the Muck Off like melts. So I've just been using stands instead. So back to this review. So I've already talked about a little bit about how the different thickness in the carcass of these Blue Label tires, which I believe the line is supposed to release at some point a little bit later this year. But let's get them on the scale and check if I can get them balanced. Maybe this way. There we go. All right, so you see here, you're weighing in at 359 grams, which is actually a little bit lighter than what they claim on their website. Go ahead and tear this. Now we've got the original R2s, which I had ridden quite a bit. Not this specific pair, this specific is brand new. But as you see, we're coming in at 487 grams, which is a pretty significant difference in a tire. I mean, you're looking at over 100 grams just in these weight savings. So next thing I'll do is I'll show you how I'm mounting this Alienation Blue Label R2, and we'll see how tight it actually fits. On the website it said it's supposed to fit a little bit tighter, so we'll see if I need to break out the soap spray or if I can just thumb grip it right on there. It will be paired with a Alienation Mischief rim. They make two rims that are primarily racing rims. One is the Malice and the other one is the Mischief. They're both 1.75s. I believe they also make some smaller rims, but I'm not sure if they're TCS or if they're their regular rims. I know they make a freestyle rim and they make a freestyle specific tire that actually has TCS as well. So as you can see right here, we have the Mischief Alienation aluminum rim. That's TCS or tubeless compatible system. This is the 2.0 version, so there's this kind of rim tape underneath this sealant tape, and then we have a tubeless valve. So right now I've already seated half the tire. It was actually quite a bit easier than I thought it was going to be. Pushed right on, but obviously we always start from the opposite of the valve on a tubeless tire because the valve takes up a lot of space in the center of the rim, which you need for the space of putting the bead onto the tire, unlike with tubed. So I also lined up the label with the no logo, or the Alienation label, and all we're going to do is bead on the tire. And also making sure that it's with the correct rotation from the drive side, so arrows are almost always pointed forward. Alright, so now we've got the bead. Now I'm going to work to try to get the opposite side of the bead, so I'm trying to get one side up on the ramp of the actual rim. So if I can do that, then a lot of times when I spray my soap in here around the outsides of the rim, it'll usually seat a little bit easier. So I always use soap first, because if you just go with sealant immediately, what's going to happen if you do blow the tire off the rim, then all you're blowing is a little soap off the rim and a loud noise. Otherwise, you're filling your kitchen with sealant. So next I'm going to add a little bit of soapy water, just to make sure the bead goes on easy. With an air compressor, I have done it with a pump before. It is a lot more painful to do it with a pump. Alright, now let's see if we can get it to seat. Not quite. Alright, so as you can see, we're leaking a little bit. That's obvious until we get sealant inside there. What I'm looking for is that this little line that's on most tires, period, gets above the rim, so we know we're fully seated. And you see right here, you can see there's the leak right there. Once we put sealant in there and rotate the tire a bunch of times, it won't happen, but we have a successful bead or seal onto the tire. Now I'm going to actually let all the air out, and it's going to stay in its bead. And then I'll remove the stem, and I have a syringe which I put in the sealant directly through the stem instead of putting a scoop on. This is just my method of doing it. Some people think it's right, some people think it's wrong. It's just how easy it is for you. So I've already put the sealant in. I took the valve out and I put a syringe in there, and I put about 60 milliliters of sealant inside. That's really all you need for a 175 for the initial sealant to go everywhere. Now we're going to actually inflate it into probably around 70 psi. Then I'll give it a couple rotates and bounces, and we'll see if we can hear any major leaks, because some of those small leaks will get filled in by the sealant. Personally, I use Stan's sealant. I had used Muck Off and Orange before, but for some reason in high pressure applications, when it's super hot outside, it seems like it melts or something, because we just kept on losing pressure, and I just couldn't figure it out. So, but after we moved to Stan's, it kind of fixed itself. Okay, we're about 50. 65. Probably at about 75 or 80. I don't want to blow it off the rim. This is to just get all that sealant moving around inside the tire finding all those spots that may have slight leakages. All right, so we have our sealant in. I've rotated the tires a few times, bounced them around, and right now I don't hear anything major. So we'll see if it seats, and then oftentimes after you make your tires tubeless, you need to go out and ride your bike. But what I'm going to do with this is continue to rotate it back and forth about every half an hour or so and bounce it up and down out in the garage up until I know I get a full seal. And then we'll see how much PSI I've lost in the morning. And then from there, I'll address any sealant issues. And we'll see if everything's good to go. Next part of the video will be the ride and review. Thank you.